Hello, people, and welcome to a first of its kind for me and something I hope to be doing relatively often. And that's going to be me handing my 17 years of GM experience off to other people. And this one, in particular, this video is meant for brand new little baby GMs who have no idea where they're going from here or what they really want to do. So this one is going to start off with the basics. So let's dive into that. What are the basics of GMing? And that's going to be learning your system, creating your own GM style, and creating your own campaigns. Now, those aren't like in order really, nothing's really more important than the others, but I'm going to start with, learning your system. That's really important. Learn whatever system it is you want to play, whether that's a rules light system like Apocalypse, or whether it's a rules heavy system like the original Pathfinder or 3.5 or even second edition D&D. Learn it. You don't got to memorize it, and you don't got to be perfect, but you have to know enough to answer your players' questions within a reasonable amount of time. And there's something you can take advantage of there. If you do have someone who's a rules lawyer at your table, they're going to make sure that you stay on task. But you got to be careful of those kinds of players, and we'll go over that later. Learn your system. Huge, very important. Second thing, develop your own GM style. And this is something that is super simple to do for any basic new game master, and it has never, ever been easier in the history of tabletop role-playing games, thanks to the advent of the internet, thanks to things like Critical Role or Dimension 20 or any D&D or tabletop adventure podcast kind of awesomeness going on. We have the ability now to look at GMs and really watch them and pay attention to what they're doing. You can see how they're interacting with their players, and that can help you change your GM style immensely. It can. You can decide what kind of GM you want to be. You can pull bits and pieces from a dozen different GMs, whether that's their kind of improv skills, their voice acting skills, whether this is how you set up your backstories, this is how you set up your campaigns, whatever. Go for it. Because speaking as a GM, there is nothing I like more than seeing one of my players copy one of my GM styles. That is awesome. That is a huge compliment. That is amazing. And watching so many sessions, you're going to develop an affinity for the rules of the game without even really reading the books. You're going to learn what's okay and what's not. You're going to learn how to educate rules. You're going to learn so many things about being a GM. If when watching any D&D game, any Pathfinder game, any tabletop adventure game, you focus on the GM and learn what they're actually doing and learn what they're saying, learn how they're interacting. Copy it, steal it, whatever. And then take everything you've learned and figure out how you want to do it too. Apply it to what you want to do. Don't just take from people and that's it. If you want to be a good GM, you have to develop your own style. There has to be a reason that people come to you and sit at your table other than you're just a GM who's running things. Develop your own style. For me, I am very, very wordy. If you've watched either Strange Aeons or the Touchstone game, I'm descriptive. I play a lot of theater of the mind kind of thing, and that works for me. That brings a specific set of players to my table. People who enjoy that kind of thing. Find what makes you special as a GM. Design your own style. Find players that match you very well. That's really important. You can't just assume your GM style is going to work for everybody. That's going to create a lot of conflict and stuff. It's great to play with a bunch of different people at first, but once you've gotten a grasp on the basics, once you've started to develop your own GM style, find players that complement you. Find players that suit your style. And the best thing about it, you can take brand new players and teach them. That's wonderful. Brand new players are probably like the best things that I want in my game. I want at least one veteran every time, I'll be honest. People that I know work with me well and mesh with my stories very well. And then the rest of them can be brand new players for all I care, because brand new players have weird and amazing insights as to things to do and things to look at. And they're going to make you a better GM just by being able to teach them the rules. They're going to reinforce whatever system you're playing in your brain, because you have to make sure that they understand the rules too. So develop your own GM style. Huge, amazing, really easy to do. Lastly, creating your own campaign arcs. Now, this is something I would actually recommend for people who have had that experience of developing their own style. Don't start off creating your own worlds by any means. If you want to create your own world, first look at modules, and they're super easy to find. Doesn't matter the system. Look how they're paced. Look how the lore is given. Don't throw 1,000 things at your players when one or two will do. Look at modules and use those to help form how your campaigns are going to go. Run a few of them, play in a few of them, and just interact with those in general and decide, do I want to be just a module GM? Because there is literally nothing wrong with that. I'm actually running a module right now, and I'm going to be running more soon, which is something that's actually going to be at the end of the video too. Hopefully people will like it. So yeah, biggest advice for new GMs, learn your system, kind of thing. Definitely learn your system. Develop your own GM style, and don't be afraid to take from other people that are better GMs than you. There's no reason not to. Learn from them. They're there, and they're going to help you. And lastly, before you get into massive campaign planning, read a module. Learn how to do it. So now that we've done that, we're going to go into slightly more advanced things. Okay? I'm going to talk about burnout. DM burnout, GM burnout is a real thing where you're just trying too hard, you're doing too much. And it happens most often to new GMs who don't know how to balance their games appropriately. It happened to me when I got really excited, even just a couple years ago, and I started running 7 games a week. That is way too much. You need to learn how to channel your energy a little differently. And these are things that, even though I've been GMing for literally 17 years, I only learned recently. Like within the past, I would say 5-6 years, the things that were really nailed into me, things that I learned that are really important. Okay, to avoid GM burnout, learn to improv. Learn to roll with your players. You don't have to plan everything. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have an answer for everything right away either. You can take 5-10 minutes, distract them with a shiny bauble, wait until next session. You don't have to have an answer for everything. You don't have to be perfect, and you can still enjoy the game. And the players are going to enjoy the game. Little imperfections are amazing. If you're perfect and you have everything planned, your players are going to feel railroaded to hell. So instead of doing that, instead of causing that burnout and making your players feel railroaded, like they have no choice in your story because it's just your story, improv with them. Okay? Not just that, but listen to your players. You want to avoid GM burnout? That's one of the best things you can do is listen to your players. They're going to be constantly gifting you with these amazing ideas about how they want their characters to interact with the world. Use that. They're going to keep their engagement. They're going to keep their involvement, and it's going to be amazing. Stay balanced and stay fair. Do not start over-giving things to people. You're going to create tension in the group, and by creating tension in the group, it's going to burn you out that much faster. And honestly, there's nothing worse than watching a group fall apart because the GM burnt out and because you didn't play fair. So avoid GM burnout. Biggest thing, don't run 1,000 games a week unless you're ready for that. Unless that's something you can do, like off the top, build up to it. You want to run 2 games a week? That's cool, but make sure you're prepared for it. Make sure you know what you're getting into. For me, my prep looks like 3 or 4 hours a week per D&D session. I go in and I change things up. I'm like, okay, this is what I need. This is what I want them to accomplish. Good. And I make loose little plans. There's probably 5 or 6 Word documents I have running for each campaign that tell me loosely what I want to happen, but there's no set in stone plans. That's how I avoid GM burnout. I improv a lot. I listen to my players. So do that. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to feel overwhelmed. You don't have to know every rule. Just let other people help you. And really, really important for avoiding GM burnout is meet other GMs. Talk to them. Bounce your ideas off them. Tell them, this is what I'm thinking for my campaign. What do you think? Because that's half of your work gone. If you can bounce an idea off and think, that's amazing, you include it. If they're like, maybe that's a little weird, either their GM style doesn't mesh with yours, or maybe your idea is a little weird and you need to rethink it. And it's going to cause you a lot less stress down the line if you kick a bad idea out before it gets into the game. All right. Now, second advanced part that we're going to talk about is going to be, what kind of game do you want to play? Not literally what kind of game, as in like, am I playing this edition or am I playing that edition? No, I mean, what kind of awesomeness do you want to bring to the table? Is it going to be a horror game, a hack and slash, role play? Is it going to be just an exploration or a survival? Any number of different genres that you can bring to the table. What kind of game do you want to play? And that's going to lead into creating your own campaigns. Because you can take a module and you can put a billion different spins on it based on just that. What kind of game do I want to play with this module? That's relatively important. All right. We're going to get into that right now, just a bit more. And from here on out, it's going to be literally pre-planning your campaign session. It's going to be the big thing. So if you guys want to skip ahead because you already know how to play a campaign session, go ahead. I'm going to be talking about session 0 in the next episode, so you can skip to that. If, however, you want advice on planning your own campaigns, then I have no problem doing that for you folks. So I'm going to break down how to plan a campaign into a few simple bits and pieces. We're going to start off with, what kind of genre do you want? That's super simple. For me, I wanted to play something horror-based for Strange Aeons. Obviously, it's a Cthulhu-themed adventure. I want something horror-based. I want something that's a little more role-play, but I don't want to shy away from combat. So those are the kind of things that I thought about when prepping for Strange Aeons. Easy enough. For Touchstone, it was even simpler. I wanted to tell a story that took the typical norms of heroes and villains and turned them on their heads. In case you guys haven't noticed, in Touchstone, a lot of the good guys are actually monsters. Straight up terrible people. And a lot of the monsters are actually good guys. They're looking out for their own. They were angry because their own people had been assaulted. They weren't upset that the people had failed. They were upset that their people had been hurt and killed, and they were really angry about it, to the point where the leader got a little upset and threatened a lot of death, but didn't kill them outright because he is fundamentally a good person. I wanted to take a campaign and just literally turn it on its head. And that's awesome. Though that's the kind of game I wanted to go for. Next, consider with that in mind, with that kind of thing in mind, those themes, those genres in mind, what kind of story do you want to tell? So on the stream a little while ago, I actually made up just a broad sweeping campaign arc, and we're going to use that for now. So we're gonna say that we are in my Cannibal God campaign, and I'll explain that. There is, in this campaign, in this broad sweeping story idea, there is a dude who's trying to resurrect a fallen god. Right now, he's masquerading as the high priest of another god, and he's doing everything he can to push high-level adventurers out and away from him and his area so that he can actually take over the kingdom he's in with his religion and bring his god back. Now, his god is a literal, like I said, cannibal god. He enjoys eating other people. And that means for this human, because he's going to be a human guy, he enjoys eating other humans. Like that's the entirety of his priesthood. He gains power from eating other people. All right. Now I have my big story I want to tell. I want to tell this arc about this guy resurrecting a fallen god. Super simple idea-ish. Now I'm going to take what I want to refer to as mini arcs, and they're going to be the steps in his plan. How many steps is it going to take to get from 1 to 100 of his plan? Off the hop, I see 3. 3 that I'm going to invent right now. 1, he needs to gain a little more power. 2, he needs to gain more followers. 3, he needs to use those powers and those followers to resurrect his god. Those are just 3 off the top of my head, right? And each of those mini arcs is going to be how you weave your story together. You don't need to have a perfect plan when you have those 3 little mini arcs. You know roughly what your bad guy is doing, so you know roughly how he's going to influence the people around him. In that first arc, he needs to gain more power. Whether that's going to be increasing, his position in the kingdom, whether that's going to be eating more people to gain their power, whether that's going to be gaining power over local monsters in the area, whatever it's going to be, he needs to gain more power. So I can have 50 or 60 sessions just in that first arc about him gaining power, and the players might never know it's him. Now in that second arc, it's going to be the same thing. He needs to gain a following. He needs more people worshiping his god to bring him back. So you're going to start to notice little things change around town. Now the second arc, because it's literally just about getting more followers, is probably going to happen behind the scenes. Players aren't going to see a whole lot of it. This is where I can introduce a bunch of side stories and stuff. For my players' backstories, for random things I want to include, that kind of thing. And then the last arc He needs to use those powers. That is also going to be a relatively short-lived arc because it's the culmination. The big bad finally reveals himself, and the players have got to deal with it. That's it. Now, in those parts, you can do whatever you want with them. You don't have to be like, oh yeah, this is where he's doing his thing. This is where he's getting followers. This is where he's using everything. When you plan a campaign arc, you can have as many steps as you want. If you look, and my favorite example is the Pathfinder modules, they tell one overarching story, but it's broken up into 6 pieces. Determine what kind of power level you want your players to have. And I mean, relatively speaking, the higher the level you want them to end up at, the bigger the big bad, the harsher the final boss, the more steps you're generally going to need. Now, this guy, this bringing back a fallen god, I'm probably not going to get him to resurrect the fallen god unless the players really, really fail. They're only going to be dealing with this high priest. I'm going to say he's going to be like level 10 to 12 at most. So I'm only going to need 3 steps. You want them to be 20? You want them to be 20 with like a bunch of epic boons kind of thing, or you want them to be like a Gestalt campaign, you're going to need a few more steps. But that's kind of the big thing. Plan your story in the broadest of terms. You don't need to narrow down the nitty-gritty. Okay? And do that before your session 0. Tell your players, this is the kind of story I want to tell. I want to tell a story of, in this case, of a fallen god. We're going to be role-playing this entire thing where I want you guys to interact with the world in which an evil god is resurrecting. I'm not going to tell them who's resurrecting him. I'm not going to tell them what kingdom it's in. I'm not going to tell them what the guy's going to be doing. But I'm going to give them a broad, sweeping statement. This is the story I want to tell. These are the genres I want to hit. You have to be prepared to give that to them so they can prepare their own characters. Now, if you are a veteran GM of a bunch of campaigns and you've already done a bunch of stuff like this, then you know what's coming next, and that's developing the nitty-gritty afterwards. But that is going to come after session 0, and that's going to come... It's going to come together relatively hard. I'll be honest, it's going to be a lot of work. But if it's a story you want to tell, if it's a story you've already thought about, and you think it's amazing, it's going to be less work and a lot more fun. So... I had something to announce at the end of this video, which I said, I think, at the beginning, which was I have gained permission from an awesome content creator called the Adventure Awaits Studio. And I'm going to be running at least, now this is not like a guaranteed, I'm only running one a month, but I'm going to be running 1 session a month with his stuff. And I'm really excited to be doing that. And that's going to be starting probably close to the end of March this month. And I want anyone who follows me on YouTube or on Twitch or anything like that to be involved. So I'm giving first dibs to anyone who's on my Discord server. If you want to join up, message me. Because I want the first 5 people who message me to really be a part of it. And I'm really excited. We're going to create some fantastic characters. It's going to be a really good time. And if you are part of that first 5, I look forward to working with you. If you're not, I'm going to be doing this for a while. I'm going to be showing off my GMing skills so that you guys can see them. And I'm going to be helping you guys do whatever you need to do to make your own GM dreams come true, as it were. So hit me up on the Discord, follow on YouTube, do all that good stuff. Give me a comment. Do the Twitch thing, follow me on Twitch and join me on chat or whatever, and ask me your questions. And tell me what you want to see next. All right. Thanks for watching. If you've gotten this far, super excited for Adventure Awaits Studios stuff. Really excited. And if there's anything you guys need to know about, I'm sure you can find me on the Discord, no problem. I'm almost always on it. I am attached to my phone like a terrible human. All right. Enjoy the rest of your days. Have a fantastic time. And as always, I really want to say this. Be kind to your players and be kind to each other. Bye.